In this episode, we reviewed the pre-code classic King Kong from 1933. This was directed by Merian C.Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack. It was written by James Ashmore Creelman, as well as Ruth Rose, from an idea conceived by Merian C.Cooper. And it starred Fay Wray, Robert Armstrong, and Bruce Cabot. Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast exploring storytelling on film, as well as interviews with industry professionals who work in film, television, theater, among other areas of the arts. I want to welcome to the show Michael Stever, who is an American film director, editor, cinematographer, producer, writer, as well as an actor. Michael, welcome. Thanks again for joining me.
Robert, so happy to be here. Finally, after 3 attempts.
Yes. This was probably. I think you're right when we talked on Facebook, because I think this is one of the episodes that was scheduled the most. There's a record now of, I think it was I think we were supposed to do it late February, and then I had to reschedule, and then the second one it was you, and then the third was me. But anyways, we're here.
Murphy's Law wanted to throw us a few curveballs here.
Yeah,
isn't that always the way?
always. But at least we're doing this in 2023 when it's the 90th anniversary of this film. We didn't have to reschedule another 10 times, and then it's 2024 before we know it. But this is 90 years.
Yeah, I still can't believe it's been 90 years for King Kong, crying out loud.
90 years. But before we jump into the film, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you got to know Fay Wray a little bit. So could you tell us how you came to meet her?
Well, who didn't love King Kong, when they were a kid? Of course, that's how many of us were first introduced to her. I think I saw King Kong on TV when I was around 6. And then I had worked full-time as an actor, singer, dancer for almost 20 years. Doing a lot of shows and national tours. I did some film and TV here and there, and a sit down of West Side Story in Berlin. And I sang in the Radio City Christmas show, and that was actually one of my last performing gigs. I was doing Toy Fair. Every year in Manhattan, they do Toy Fair. All the major toy companies come together and do huge, promotional exhibitions, for what is hot for the year. And right. I think it's still going on to this day. Well, I had gotten hired to do some demonstrating for Hasbro. And lo and behold, I ran into Rick McKay, who was demonstrating for another manufacturer. And we just struck up a friendship. We had we got to know each other a little bit there. And it turns out he had already just barely kind of started working on this documentary, Broadway, The Golden Age, by the legends who were there, which came out in 2004. But this was 99, 2000 when I met him. He had already been working and knew Fay. And when he brought me on as unit production manager that was when I actually first met her. And I just couldn't quite believe it. I mean, Fay Wray.
Yeah.
And it was her last film.
The Scream Queen, the original, first Scream Queen, and maybe one of the best ones, or the best, anyways.
Operatic, utterly operatic, totally, yes.
Yeah. So what was that? What was that meeting like? You had mentioned before we started she was touching your hair or something. What was that about?
Stroking my hair.
Yeah.
We were doing a backers audition at Jamie DeRoy's apartment. Jamie DeRoy is one of the producers of Broadway, The Golden Age, by the legends who were there, which is a wonderful documentary, by the way. If anybody cares,
I still have to see it.
Yeah, it came out in 2004. Anybody that loves or appreciates the Broadway theater should seek it out, because it's like sitting at the knee of 100 luminaries of theater. Many, 60, almost 70% now, I think, of whom have passed away.
Yeah. Right.
Which is very weird to have worked on a film like that and met so many people, and now they're gone.
Right.
It's humbling. It really is, and it gives you a perspective on things that you just don't really think about much when you're younger.
Right, of course. Of
But
course.
yeah, we were doing a backers audition, trying to raise money and associate producerships for the documentary at Jamie Doray's apartment. And um, Fay and I just struck up a conversation. She was the only one there, so it was just she and I. Rick had gone to run errands, and I was setting up the video equipment to show our trailer, which I can send you a link to if you're interested.
Oh,
But
sure.
she just started petting the back of my hair, and we were talking, and it was very, I don't know, it was very sweet. It was a very sweet moment. And
did she say why she was doing, like, did she like?
well, I was leaning up against her chair. I was leaning up
Oh,
against her
okay.
chair, and we were
Okay.
just talking, and it turned
Yeah.
out our I had mentioned that I was raised Mormon, and
Right.
she says, "Oh, well, I was raised Mormon too."
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that just blew me out of I'd say out of my chair, but I wasn't sitting in a chair. I was sitting on the floor at her feet.
Right.
And I couldn't believe it. The Mormon religion, is it's an interesting entity in the evolution of far right fundamentalist religions. So it's had its it's a tough sell on certain fronts, but I don't regret being raised Mormon. I think that there was a lot of good things that came out of it, not necessarily with my association with the dogma of Mormonism itself, but just the fact that it was where I got my first professional performing experiences, singing and dancing.
Oh, right.
If it hadn't have been for the Mormon Church, I don't know that I would have gone down that path
Oh,
of
it's interesting.
yeah, being an actor, singer, dancer. So you gotta find the good with the bad, right?
Of course, of course. And as when you and I decided to do this, I'm not really, I haven't really been too familiar with her, and so you made some suggestions to some of her films to check out. So that was The Most Dangerous Game, The Wedding March, Queen Bee, and The Finger Points, which are all really interesting films. And one thing, I don't know how you felt about this. I felt that in Queen Bee was in the 50s. The Queen Bee,
Very small role in
yeah,
Queen,
very really small, just
but
at the
it's a very
beginning.
what she brings is so substantive in the fact that she's clearly this very kind of waspy, very timid, if you would,
Yeah.
character has been. It's very evident that her character, has this horrific history with Joan Crawford's character, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and everything that she brings to the table is so subtle, but it's so powerful.
It really is. Yeah.
And that is kind of one of the true gifts that she had. Faye was never one of those kinds of actresses that was voraciously going after like the best or the meatiest or the darkest roles. She just wasn't that aggressive
Right.
of a human being, which I think is to her testament. I think not that actresses or actors that are questionable, but oftentimes that that passion is can go a little on the dark side. And that is something that Faye was dark. She was an incredible spirit, very, very elevated all the way through to the very end. So she definitely leaned more to the lights rather than to the dark. But yeah,
Right.
oh my gosh. Well, the Wedding March is hugely important to know about, not just because it's a benchmark silent film
Yeah.
from Eric, but Eric von Stroheim, who directed it, fell in love with her, as many did, have, and very easy to do. But she was a contract player for Hal Roach Studios and Universal, and I think that show, The Wedding March, was when Paramount brought her over.
Right.
Uh, and that was kind of the first role she played that really put her in the spotlight, in terms of
Yeah.
a really formidable um, starring role in a film. And she just shines in it, obviously.
Oh, she's amazing in that. Just her expression and her eyes say so much. Same with King Kong, of course,
Oh yeah,
and Queen
and that
Bee.
scream.
Oh, of course, yeah. But you know, even in King Kong or in the Wedding March, as soon as you see her, it's just, and it's not just because she was beautiful. It's just like she has this vulnerability, uh, just oozing out of her face, which again was remarkable to see, even in. I mean, I'm no expert on silent film. That's a blind spot for me. But you know, generally speaking, the because the actors didn't have dialogue, they would sometimes have to do things larger. I was watching some silent film once, and I think I can tell that the character who was a waiter, all he was saying was he was giving the bill to the customers, and all he was saying was something like, you owe $4. But because it's a silent film, he had to point and then put his four fingers up, so everything had to be a little bit bigger, right?
Oh
And
my gosh, everything was bigger in silent
of
films.
course, yeah, of course. But in that film, I felt like everything it was so realistic. And you did see that again sometimes in silent film. But it's interesting, once the 30s came around, I mean, you had great realistic, truthful performances, but it was more common for them to still be over the top and broad. But
Well,
I
I
felt.
think you got to think also that a lot of these actors, I mean, the ratio I'm not familiar with, but you know, it was still such an incredibly new medium, and so
Exactly, yeah, yeah,
the theater was probably where a lot of people, you know, came from.
yeah,
Not all of them,
yeah.
obviously,
Yeah,
but a
some of them
huge
are
percentage of
vaudeville,
them.
which technically theater,
Yeah.
but different kind of theater. But yeah, but that was one thing that struck me, was how subtle she was. But then again, with the exception of the most dangerous game and the finger points, I felt that she was broader in that. I felt that she had an over the topness. I don't know, you know, but you never know how they're directed or what's going on set. I like the movies, but it was for me, it was a contrast compared to her in the other films where she was so realistic. I felt that she was larger in those films. I don't know how you felt. Finger points and
Larger in which ones?
that she was the finger points and the most dangerous game, meaning that it was over the top.
Well, you know, I've not watched Finger Points in a while since I sent you the link, but I mean, I thought her performance was pretty understated.
Oh, that's
In
interesting.
terms of just naturalism, she's um, what tell me, just so that I know what to look for when I watch it again. What was it? What were some of her moments that you thought were bigger than, or not over the, I don't know. The thematically, Finger
It's a good
Points
movie though.
is
You
so
know,
dark. I mean, talk
yeah,
about dark.
it was an
It's a
interesting
really dark
film.
movie. You know,
Yeah,
these
Gable
so
was
they,
great in it, and just exploring, you know, the ambition and the dangers of too much ambition, and you know, but it was empathetic at the same. I thought it was a really interesting script. You know, it was a little. I watched it, I think, sometime in January, so there isn't a particular moment popping out to me, but it was just my general feeling was that, you know, it wasn't like so over the top, but it was broader than bigger than the other performances.
well,
But you know,
thematically, absolutely. I mean, you know, this could be very well part and parcel with the mind of the writer that wrote the script. I mean, or was a huge part of it, who was, you know, John Monk Saunders, who was Faye's her first husband.
right.
I don't know how much you know about John Monk Saunders, but he wrote the screenplay um, to Wings, which was the very first movie to
Best
ever
picture,
win
right?
an Oscar for
Yeah,
Best Picture.
he
Of
wrote the
course,
finger points.
yeah, John Monk
Oh wow.
Saunders.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, wow. I
he
did not
wrote
know that.
the fingerprint. There's a good handful of things that he wrote that are worth seeking out. But John Monk Saunders was a really troubled um, person, and put Faye through hell.
Oh God,
They had a
didn't
daughter
know that.
together, Susan. Yeah, I mean, he got addicted to drugs, and God knows what else. I mean, I think their marriage was problematic. from the get-go. And Fay's Mormon mother, who was not very nice to her, very much pushed her getting married to him. I think he had, probably sought Fay's hand from her mom and dad, and I think Fay's mom was very much into the idea of her marrying him, and he was not good to her. Yeah, I mean, he had gambling problems, I think, as well, and he actually, after he had Fay had Susan, I think he sold the house that Fay and Susan were living in to pay bills and debts and forced Fay and Susan to leave. They were actually forced to vacate the house. Yeah.
Oh God.
Which really sucks. He injected her in the middle of the night with heroin because I think, yeah.
Wow. Is this it? Did you now? Is
this is in her book? Yeah, you should.
I was going to say this sounds like I mean, I hate to sound wow. This sounds juicy, but from an entertaining standpoint, but it does sound like quite the story that one would want to check out. I mean, yeah. So this is her. She has a memoir.
Faye talks about this in her memoir, which is an incredible book. It's called On the Other Hand.
Okay.
Which you got to read. It's a great book. She wrote it. She might have had somebody, editing with her to clean it up, but it is definitely her writing. She was actually a great writer. You might have noticed I just sent you a poem that she wrote.
Yes, I didn't get a chance to read it. In that list of
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, I will read it. I did enjoy the interview you did with her daughter, Susan. How did you meet her?
Susan was at the 75th anniversary of King Kong celebration. Okay. It was a screening at the Film Forum, which is here in Manhattan. Was this really 15
2008? Yeah.
Yeah. Long time ago. But yeah, that was very impromptu, off the cuff. I mean, we hadn't discussed it prior, and she was just very easygoing. It was a great interview. I got to get the video of that up because I filmed it as well. But what I sent you was the transcript.
Right.
And then we kind of struck it off as well, even though we've not really kept in touch. She lived in Lower Manhattan at the time. And then she was getting on in years, and her sister, Victoria Riskin, who is the daughter of Robert Riskin, who has also written a wonderful book that is worth seeking out on her life with her famous parents. Robert Riskin, who of course was a prolific producer, and It Happened One Night, and a whole litany of other well-known films.
Yeah.
Victoria, I think, helped Susan move to LA or to the West Coast, and Susan and I have not kept in touch. So I think she's still alive, but I'm not 100% certain.
And she was an actor too, which I
was.
Yeah, but mainly on the stage.
She was. Yeah,
I didn't see much film and TV work.
She was understudy to Elizabeth Ashley in Agnes of God, opposite Geraldine Page.
That was a great story when she had to go on, and there was.
Oh my God! From all the noise, yes.
Yeah, there was people were pissed off as it is that the understudy was on.
Oh God!
There was ambulances and fire.
And they were building the Marriott Marquis, I believe, was the theater that was adjacent to where that theater was. And yeah, horrific noise that I'm sure was just a bear to contend with. But yeah, she did that with Elizabeth Ashley and Geraldine Page and Amanda Plummer, who we actually interviewed. We interviewed Amanda Plummer in Fay's apartment in Burbank.
Oh my God.
Some of those pictures that I sent you, a couple of them I shot there from inside Fay's apartment.
Oh, that's amazing.
The couch, and then there was actually, I didn't send you the one in the bathroom, but in her bathroom, she had a huge framed picture of the wedding march.
Which, cool.
I could send you that too, but it's Fay Wray's Lou. What you gonna do?
We need it. We need it for this video.
Yeah, Rick McKay, the director of Broader, The Golden Age, and myself stayed there in Fay's apartment for several weeks while we were interviewing a whole slew of people. Amanda Plummer and Carol Cook, who just passed away. Carl Reiner. We interviewed Carl Reiner in Fay's apartment as well. He was a lovely, lovely man. Just incredible guy. Yeah,
What an experience.
Oh yeah, it was incredible.
Why don't we jump into talking about King Kong? So you said you first saw this when you were a kid?
6 years old.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think my love for King Kong started when I got this. I don't know if you know this book,
No,
uh,
I don't.
The Girl in the Hairy Paw.
I love it.
This is a great book. I got this, I think, shortly after I saw King Kong when I was 6, 7, 8. It's a huge book. I mean, it's packed with pictures and incredible musings and stories and anything you would want to know um, about it. And yeah, I mean, it's a benchmark film for crying out loud.
Mm. Oh, definitely.
And I love that people are still constantly throwing it out there as, one of the greatest films ever made. And just from the standpoint of creative genius and broaching choices and things that had never been made. I mean, to come up with just the whole like multi-tiered level of like matte glass matte painted
Yeah.
jungle settings that would help give the jungle settings more dimension on the miniatures. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, just incredible stuff. And of course, it was a huge benchmark thing for Fay, having come from The Most Dangerous Game,
Right.
and Willis O'Brien and Ernest Schoedsack. Um, just a really seemingly almost fated. She was meant to be there for sure. And then
For
operatic scream just kind of kicked her over the edge.
Oh yeah, well there you go. The original Scream
Original
Queen.
scream queen for sure.
I'll just get for people who perhaps haven't seen it, I'll just read out a short synopsis. So this is Carl Denham needs to finish his movie and has the perfect location, Skull Island, but he still needs to find a leading lady. This soon to be unfortunate soul is Anne Darrow. No one knows what they will encounter on this island and why it is so mysterious. But once they reach it, they will soon find out. Living on this hidden island is a giant gorilla, and this beast now has Anne in its grasps. Carl and Anne's new love, Jack Driscoll, must travel through the jungle looking for King Kong and Anne while avoiding all sorts of creatures and beasts. This was the first time I must admit, I don't think I've ever seen it before. I had seen some of the Peter Jackson one and some of the 76 one because my son likes the Peter Jackson one a lot. And I think we saw bit, and he likes, the more recent ones like Kong Skull Island. Like there's I don't even know how many there
You've
are.
not sat down with your son and showed him the 76 one? Did you show him? How old is your son is what?
He's 11.
11 now?
Yeah. Yeah. We saw the Jackson one.
You got to show him. You got to show him the 76.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm not sure why we haven't seen. He's at that age where he's like, if I tried to show him the original, it's like he won't watch black and white, and I'm like, come on, what's wrong with you?
Oh man, you of all people, you got to do.
I gotta whip him into shape.
You got to do some cage shaking there.
Yeah.
You know what? That will probably be the one movie that he might be so intrigued by. I don't know. I mean, how he must be intrigued by movies because of what you do.
Certainly, but it's like it's that period that he can't. When you're so used to watching color, it's like anything that's black and white feels like, oh my god, like this. It's like looking at it's just looking like the sun is in your eyes all of a sudden. Like people, they just, I not everybody's like that, but obviously younger people. I mean, I know people my age who can't, they're so used to color. They just cannot watch something black and white. I don't get it. I don't know. So I had never seen this before. I quite enjoyed it. What really,
when did you first watch it for the first time? Do you remember?
This I just saw for the first time, like a week and a half ago. I've never seen it before.
The original Kong? You'd never seen it?
I'd never seen it. Like I said, God. I've only saw the other one.
You watched the Peter Jackson one before the original. I think he would even slap you down for that one. But
I've never seen it. I quite enjoyed this, and what I particularly enjoyed about it is that you don't particularly feel that you want to root for just one person here, because there's there's really no clear protagonist and no clear antagonist, because even the filmmaker is he's an asshole in a lot of ways. I mean, here he is. He doesn't tell anybody where they're going.
He seems to evolve as the quintessential villain.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Black's portrayal of him was certainly that. Charles Grodin, who did it brilliantly.
I love Grodin.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Robert Armstrong's character was probably the least hateable of all the three filmmaker roles.
That's interesting.
You kind of put them all together. But yeah, I think hands down the lead protagonist, that you're rooting for is Kong, of course.
Well, for sure, because it's a classic story of man messing with nature, and here they go to Skull Island, and they basically throw the gas bomb at him to knock him out. They take him out of his habitat, and they turn him into a show. But even with Kong, because naturally he's going to respond in a ferocious way because he's being messed with.
There's no taming that beast.
No. I mean, you never hate him, but you are not exactly on his side when everyone's on the tree and he's throwing them, killing everybody, shaking them off the tree. I love at the end, that poor woman, he puts his hands through the building when he's looking for Fay Wray, and he picks up this one woman who just woke up and throws her out the window. I was like, oh my God, what a way to wake up.
Oh my God, yeah,
die.
that pre-code violence is I mean, so many of those scenes were censored.
Yes, well, that's the thing.
It wasn't until the remake came out that all those scenes were reinserted into the original.
Yes, I read that.
Which gave the original this incredible new life. Which was great.
Yeah, but, for sure. Because even he takes her clothes off. They cut that out. When Kong takes her clothes off, and even some of those. Again, that's the thing with the pre-code. They just went all out and stomping on people's heads,
stomping on natives bodies, and chewing on them,
on them in their head. It's pretty it's pretty Gory remarkable. Stuff. But the film has a certain sense of humor because it's like Carl Denham is going there and he already has this story in mind where the beast falls for the beauty, and it's not that man will get him, it's that beauty will get him. I mean, he says it on the boat, and the irony is that that's exactly what happened. It's just that the only difference is he didn't film it. It's just that it became
it was the one thing that he couldn't film. From an environmental, I don't think he cared.
I mean, he's just such an opportunist. I think for him, as long as he was going to make a lot of money off of it, and he is this adventurer. But he's not, it's so interesting to me, because he's not telling anybody exactly where they're going. And then but then he's like, okay, well, this is where I want to go, Skull Island. And he knows about this legend of Kong. And when he's shooting Ann Darrow screaming, he's taking shots of her. He's got this whole thing in mind. It's just that it turned out in a very different way. But at that last scene, when he says, "No, it's not the planes that got him; it's the beauty that got the beast." His script. It became reality TV or something. I mean, it's like that's exactly what he wanted. Just it happened in a different way. Which again, it has a sense of humor to it.
He didn't get it on film though, so I'm sure he was hugely disappointed. From a cautionary standpoint, though, that's actually one of the most profound reasons to watch the '76 remake. Because it's not about a film crew. It's actually about this crew.
Yeah, because he's an oilman, right?
It's going to look for oil, yeah.
That's what I read. I heard that. Yeah.
And this country was in such a horrific state of turmoil with regards to, the price of gas was like skyrocketing at that time, especially, right? Exactly. So the fact that they integrated that in with the storyline was genius.
Good idea.
And made it 10 times more profound. Because it completely tied in with things that people at the time could identify with.
Right.
And and of course, choosing for Kong to climb the top of the World Trade Center is
brilliant.
It's a totally big deal. And the fact that it's not there now is weird.
Right.
Very weird. As a matter of fact, I went to the top of the World Trade Center my first day when I came to New York in '94. I had been doing shows at Disney World from doing shows. I was doing shows on the West Coast, and then I came to the East Coast to Orlando and was doing shows at Disney World for a few years. And then I came to New York. And yeah, my first day in New York City, that's what me and my friend Cindy did, was go to the top of the World Trade Center. Oh, and wow. Lo and behold, there's this, I got to send you this picture too. There's, of course I took one. There's a big gigantic mural of Jessica Lange sitting in Kong's paw. That, like, huge. I mean, it must have been like 15, 20 feet by 10 feet. They're up there on the indoor observation deck of Tower 2. So,
I mean, I'm no expert on special effects or animation. I mean, obviously today they do this all in computers, but at the time you had the rear screen projection. And so I was actually, there's a great YouTube video. I'll link it in the description box, where they went pretty in depth about how they did all that, and it's pretty impressive. I wouldn't even be able to review everything they said. You'd have to see it. So I'll link it in the description box. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was that when they had like Kong fighting the dinosaurs, for example, and the rear screen projection is up, then the actors would just go in the foreground and act in front of it, in front of the screen. And I thought, I mean,
really the fact that those rear projections were so clear,
that
they could do that, I thought that was amazing. I think that happens a lot in the long extended scene where Carl Denham and his team are walking past the Triceratops, I think, when it's shot. And they're walking past the entire length of its body, but that's just like they're on a rotating platform, so they're staying still while they're just walking past this gigantic screen. But it looks incredible.
It looks good to me. I mean, it pops out. I mean, it's a little obvious, but I mean, I'm sure at the time people were just like blown away. I mean, that must have been like mind blowing. I mean, they used every special effects you could think of. I mean, no one had done anything like this before. And
Willis O'Brien, yeah, absolutely,
yeah. Oh, it's incredible. So I'll link I'll put the link in the description box if people want to hear more about how they made this film, because
it's amazing to me when you search YouTube. I'm blown away. It seems like every time I do a King Kong search on YouTube, there's this whole new litany of little mini documentaries and how did they do this, and things that people are producing. Which I just think is great. It's just one more way to keep the importance of that out there. And you got to get your son there to see that original.
Yeah, I will eventually. I'll try.
Crackdown whip on him. It's a benchmark film for sure.
Oh, for sure. If I can get him past the black and white, we'll make it happen. But it's fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and it makes you think about, I know that they just wanted to create, a fun spectacle here of, monster film and capturing him and the beauty, the beast, the beauty's killed by the beauty of the beast. But there is a certain truth to it about, going into nature and messing with it. I mean,
I think that whole cautionary thing is what puts King Kong really at the tip of the pyramid in terms of its message and what it's trying to say, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I wonder how much of that was intentional in terms of, were they just going for a pure spectacle, or was was the substance to it something they had in mind? I don't know if you would happen to know, or that just people have these different readings about, man messing with nature and the humans here being more of the villains. It's hard to say, I suppose.
The subtlety of the impact, the emotional impact of the original, is much more profound. It's not so designed to beat you over the head.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's very subtle.
Whereas the 76 one, and certainly Peter Jackson's, 75 Hanky, 2005 remake. Naomi Watts certainly did a great job, in that. Even though it's a little heavy on the CGI,
Yeah, yeah, it looks like a
for
video
my
game
eyes.
to me. I know that's improved since, but
Oh,
I didn't
vastly.
I didn't realize that the original had all of those same dinosaur fights. I thought that was just something that Jackson did, and I was like, oh wait, no, it's the same. He beats the hell out of those dinosaurs in the in the
Well, what you're
original as
seeing in the
well.
original are all, real models. They're not things
Yeah,
that were birthed, in a computer. And
no, not at all, not at all. It's incredible. It's
it's
incredible
such a
to me.
slippery slope. Like the more you learn, and when you're sensitive to CGI or CGI that is not great, I mean, it really does kind of hurt your eyes after a while.
Right, right.
The emotional component was there, but it was, um, it's not a film that I revisit often, Peter Jackson's.
Right.
Nor do I think that it will be known as the definitive remake. I mean, I think the 71 or the 76 one has that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I've some people I was just listening to some other podcast, and yeah, people they either love both the 76 or the 33, or they hate the 76 and love the 33, or but people seem to
well,
fondly.
a lot of people hated the 76 one because
Yeah,
it really was very groundbreaking. It was a benchmark remake. Remakes were not the thing.
of
It wasn't
course, not
something
at
that you
that
saw
point.
happen all the time. And it
Right.
was kind of like, oh my God, the audacity. Like, how dare he kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But they more than stepped up and brought a memorable, cinematic event to the table. And I think Peter Jackson definitely wanted to be the first one to remake it. That's why I think he talks nothing but shit about the 76 remake and has since day one, which, I doesn't fly well with me either, nor
Right.
does a lot of people, because a lot of people love that movie. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but
But
he's
you're
also very in tune to the American cinematic movie making business experience, which I think he's not a huge fan of either, which I think
right.
is why he moved his compound to back to New Zealand, so he could do all of his things there. So
Right, but I know the third one, you're right. They're beating the sadness over your head, whereas here it's very subtle. I mean, even the filmmaker here that we see when at the end when he says, "Oh, it's beauty that got the beast." He never has a moment of, "Oh God, a lot of this is my fault," or even when all the men die, and then they throw the gas bombs and he's celebrating. He never has that moment of all these men have
yeah,
died. He's just celebrating that the money he's going to be making, right? So
that phrase is always it's always been very hard for me to wrap my head around. Um, you know the greed and the narcissistic propensity of mankind. Not that womankind can't be or suffer from the same maladies, but that man's narcissism, shoots this animal down,
right.
to its death, and then you want to blame the woman. I mean,
Of course, of course. Oh yeah, it was
it's
the woman's beauty that
that's
did it.
never that's never sat well with me. But yeah, you're
Yeah, I
right.
know it doesn't quite sit well.
Like you said earlier, it does kind of have a ring of truth to it, but it doesn't go down any easier just because it's true.
No, 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 not at all. But I don't think I don't. Again, I wonder how much of the those details were conscious on their part. It's like, are we saying something about? I don't.
Well,
Or, or
I can tell you one thing that Fay was not conscious of when she did that film, and that was how completely. And I mean, she's got 100 films to her credit.
right,
She's had an incredible body of work as an actress, but that film is the one that everybody associates her with.
of
And
course,
in many ways, I think that there was probably a period of time, probably maybe through the 50s into the early late 60s, where she might have felt pigeonholed by being constantly associated
with this movie, yeah,
with this movie. But it really wasn't until after she wrote her memoir, on the other hand, which again is an incredible read,
yeah.
that
I gotta
she
read
that
that.
she came to acquiesce a little bit more and appreciate really what it had done for her. Faye was also a graphic artist as well.
Right.
When we were staying at her apartment in Burbank, I stumbled across this, which
Oh
she
my
drew.
God. How'd you get that? They let you have it?
No. It's a copy. I
Okay.
photocopy.
I was gonna say, do you swipe that? Like,
It's a photocopy,
okay. Wow. There you go.
she's saying Faye drew this,
Oh my
and
God.
she's saying, "Hi there, I forgive you."
Oh, that's hilarious.
um,
There she
yeah,
is. Yeah, on the ledge.
yeah, and yeah. So she very much came about growing to love and
Yeah.
appreciate the foundation, although dealing with her first husband, and then she had to be a caretaker for Robert Riskin because he had had some strokes and was in bad health as well. So she had to be a working actor to keep her head above water,
Right. Right.
um, which again is just like who doesn't though, really. I mean that it's a testament to her groundedness,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
that she didn't have to have those, only the best roles or only the meatiest roles or darkest roles. Um, she was just a working actor and a very down to
Right.
earth one.
That's
And
fantastic.
there's
Well,
a
I'll have
lot,
to.
yeah. There's so many movies out there and TV shows. She did a lot of TV. She did Perry
Mhm.
Mason and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's fun to do a search. If you do some searches online, you'll find some great stuff of hers.
Okay, great.
For
Well,
sure.
I'm gonna definitely read that book, and this was such a great opportunity to have you on for me to explore more about her, her filmography and more of who she is, and to finally see this classic that I haven't seen before.
Robert, I'm so glad we did this,
Yeah, me
and
too.
thank you for your patience and your willingness
Oh,
to
no problem.
reschedule. And
No, I
um,
did it too. I did it a couple of times
you
myself. So
you
yeah.
your love for movies is palpable, and I've enjoyed so many of your live streams.
Oh, thanks so much. Where, if people want to follow you on social media or your website, where's the best place for people to check you out?
I'm at just Google Michael Stever or Michael Lee Stever. I'm at michaelstever.net is my website. But yeah, I'm so fortunate to be going on 15 plus years now full time behind the camera, and my transition was really cool in the sense that um I did all these great shows with people, theater and film and TV, and I kind of kept in touch with a lot of them. And I bought my first professional camera around 2004. Oh, I didn't even tell you this. Faye and I were actually neighbors.
Oh,
Faye, I lived at on West 56th Street between 9th and 10th, and Faye lived in Trump Tower, which
oh,
was right on Fifth Avenue.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, like Fifth Avenue and 56, which I was not aware of as well. Um, so that there's just a lot of very interesting parallels
Yeah,
surrounding her, and Muse material notwithstanding. She had an incredible heart, and I know with everything in me that heart is still around for sure.
for sure. Well, fantastic. Well, Michael, thanks again for coming on, and let's do it again sometime down the road for sure.
Robert, thank you, man. So good talking to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon and receiving exclusive content, go to patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. And if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo. You will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left in just a second. Just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new videos. Also, please comment below. Let me know what you think of King Kong from 1933. Click the like button as well, and I will see you in the next episode.